As I stood before my parents, my heart pounded in my chest. Dad, Mom, this is Emma, the woman I want to marry. Emma greeted them with a polite smile, her voice warm yet reserved. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm eager to get to know you all better. I could feel my nerves creeping in. I had never been particularly expressive, and when anxiety took hold, words seemed to slip through my fingers like sand. My mother, ever perceptive, offered Emma a kind smile. "What a shy young lady," she commented gently. Her words, though simple, provided a small comfort. Yet, I was unaware of complexities woven into my family's dynamics, nor could I predict the challenges that lay ahead. A marriage and new beginning. My name is Emma, and this summer marks the first one Tom and I will share as husband and wife. Our busy work schedules leave little room for vacations, so we cherish the time we get off, mainly during Thanksgiving and New Year's. Since Thanksgiving arrived just 3 months after our wedding, we had planned a trip to visit both of our families, who lived out of state. Though we were eager to see them, the visit left little time for true relaxation. Hoping to make up for it, Tom and I planned to spend a quiet, intimate New Year's together. Just the two of us. At least that was a plan, until a month ago when Tom casually handed me a brochure for a hot spring resort. "Let's go here for New Year's," he suggested, his tone light, as if this was a simple getaway for us. Excitement bubbled up inside me. The idea of soaking in a natural hot spring, far away from responsibilities, sounded perfect. It had been so long since we had taken a trip alone together. "Did you make a reservation?" I asked eagerly, but the joy in my chest quickly deflated. "This place is run by a relative," Tom explained. "My parents are going, and they've already booked everything for us. They thought it'd be nice if we joined them." My stomach twisted. "So, it's going to be just the 4 of us? You, me, and your parents?" "Yeah. They're picking us up in the morning, so please be ready." A quiet sigh escaped my lips. I had hoped for an intimate, romantic getaway, but as a newlywed, I felt it wasn't my place to argue, so reluctantly I accepted. Yet, a week before the trip, another surprise awaited me. As I was packing, Tom returned home from work and casually dropped another bombshell. "You're right on time," he said. "We're actually leaving tomorrow, not next week. My brother and his wife are arriving at my parents' place, so we decided to go early and spend time with them." I blinked in confusion. "What?" I thought the trip was next week. Tom shrugged. "Plans changed." The abrupt shift unsettled me, but once again, I swallowed my unease and went along with it. A strained relationship. The truth was, my relationship with my in-laws had always been strained. During our engagement, my mother-in-law had smiled at me and called me a shy young lady. But behind closed doors, she had told Tom I was gloomy. I had overheard the words when she didn't realize I was listening. New Year's with them only confirmed my discomfort. When we arrived, my father-in-law barely acknowledged me before scolding, "As a daughter-in-law, you should come earlier and help out around the house." I apologized out of politeness, but the weight of his expectations pressed down on me. Since then, my in-laws had also made it clear that they expected grandchildren. Immediately, the pressure, the constant judgment, the way they scrutinized me, it was exhausting. Still, I held my tongue. When we arrived at Tom's parents' house, my mother-in-law wasted no time. "You're late, Emma. Come help in the kitchen." Without waiting for a response, she ushered me inside, where an overwhelming spread of ingredients awaited me. "Handle the dinner preparations," she instructed before disappearing into the living room. I barely had time to take a breath before I heard a car pulling up outside. Tom's brother and his wife, Emily, had arrived. Emily was 5 years younger than me, with a completely different personality, bubbly, lively, and adored by my in-laws. As soon as she stepped inside, my mother-in-law's face lit up. It's like a dream come true to have a grandchild on the way. Her hands rested fondly on Emily's stomach, her excitement overflowing. I had known Emily was pregnant, but the contrast in how we were treated stung. My mother-in-law doted on her. My father-in-law was attentive. Even Tom seemed eager to shower her with kindness. "Emma, could you get Emily a drink?" "Emma, how's dinner coming along?" Could you at least prepare some appetizers first? One after another, requests were thrown at me. It was one thing for my mother-in-law to order me around, but seeing Tom follow suit hurt in a way I hadn't expected. The following days fell into a relentless cycle of demands and silent suffering. I found myself crying alone in bed at night, wondering how I had ended up here. Betrayal. On the morning we were set to leave for the trip, I was given a simple task: to drop something off at a neighbor's house. It was only a short walk, so I complied. When I returned 15 minutes later, something fell off. The front door was locked. The car was gone. A sinking feeling settled in my chest. My phone buzzed. It was Tom. Emily wasn't feeling well, so we decided to bring her along. Please stay behind this time. Silence stretched between us. I had been told that Emily and her husband wouldn't be going on the trip because of her pregnancy. Yet now, at the last minute, they had taken her instead, leaving me behind. Had this been planned all along? Was this a mistake? Or had they deliberately excluded me? Something inside me snapped. I found myself smiling, a strange, unfamiliar smile. "Is that so?" I said, my voice surprisingly light. "Have a safe trip." Tom hesitated. He must have expected me to cry, to plead, to beg him to reconsider. Instead, I stayed perfectly calm. "We'll cover the lodging costs, so just use the usual credit card," he added, as if offering some consolation. Still smiling, I replied simply, "Okay, got it." I had my valuables with me. I could get back on my own. But the thought of just returning, going back to this life, this family, this marriage, left me with a question that I had never dared to ask before. Did I really want to? As I stood at the front door, frustration and disbelief churned inside me. I had been abandoned, left behind without so much as a second thought. My mind raced, trying to grasp what to do next, when a familiar voice called out behind me, "Aren't you the wife from this house?" I turned to see Lily, the ever-chatty neighbor who had introduced herself to me the first day I arrived. She had talked endlessly that day while I worked in the yard, and I had listened politely, never expecting our paths would cross again in such a moment. Something inside me cracked as I faced her, the weight of my emotions too heavy to hold in any longer. "They left me," I said, my voice trembling. "I was supposed to go on the trip with them, but they just drove off without me. And ever since I got here, I've been working nonstop, doing everything without any help." Lily's warm expression shifted to concern as she listened. "That sounds awful," she said sincerely. "I can't understand what they find so off-putting about you." The kindness in her voice made my throat tighten. I had been holding back so much, enduring every slight and insult. But here, in front of a woman I barely knew, I poured it all out. "I don't even have a car to get home," I added, the helplessness of my own words making my eyes burn with unshed tears. Lily watched me for a moment before making a firm decision. "Come stay with me," she offered. "You shouldn't be alone right now." I hesitated. Except Tom's betrayal ran deeper than I had imagined. His affair partner, as it turned out, was a waitress at a cafe we had often visited together. The realization that they had likely shared stolen glances and laughter right under my nose made my blood boil. He had used my credit card freely to fund his infidelity, expensive gifts, hotel stays, and extravagant meals, all while I remained oblivious. I demanded reimbursement for every cent he had squandered. There would be no sympathy, no forgiveness. His selfishness had cost me too much already. Word of his affairs spread quickly, even reaching his workplace. The disapproving stares of his colleague became unbearable, forcing him to resign. Unable to sustain himself, he moved back in with his parents and took on a part-time job, a far cry from the stable life he had once enjoyed. But the damage didn't stop there. His actions caused deep fractures within his family. His brother and Emily, his sister-in-law, were disgusted by the scandal and cut ties with the family. Though I had never been particularly close to them, Emily surprised me by reaching out after the divorce. She apologized for how I had been treated, explaining that she, too, had been reluctant to go on that dreaded trip, but had been pressured into it. Despite our rocky history, I was relieved to hear that she had given birth to a healthy baby and was doing well Tom's parents, once proud and overbearing, were forced to sell their home and move into a small apartment. With the money from the sale, Tom repaid his debt to me in full. His mother, who had never worked a day in her life, struggled in a part-time job, her domineering personality making it difficult to get along with others. His father, once so authoritative, became an elusive figure, his whereabouts unknown to even his own family. As for Tom, his past followed him wherever he went, making stable employment nearly impossible. Small-town gossip had a long reach, and his reputation preceded him. I learned all of this much later, during a visit to Lily after my life had finally settled down. I had gone to see her to express my gratitude once more, as she had been my refuge when I needed it most. It was then that she mentioned something unexpected. "My son would like to have a proper conversation with you, Emma. Would you be interested in meeting him?" Her words caught me off guard. I had met him briefly before. He had always seemed calm and kind, a stark contrast to what I had endured in my previous marriage. At first, I hesitated. Was I ready? Could I trust again? But something in me urged me to take a chance. Reaching out to him felt natural, and as we spoke, a connection blossomed. He was patient, understanding, and treated me with respect I had never known before. What began as a tentative friendship soon grew into a long-distance relationship, and 2 years later, we stood together at the altar, promising each other a love built on trust and kindness. Today, my life is filled with warmth and happiness. Lily, once just a kind neighbor, is now my mother-in-law, and she embraces me as her own daughter. 2 years after our wedding, we welcomed a daughter into our lives, a little girl who is cherished beyond words. Looking back, the pain I endured feels like a distant storm, one that shaped me but did not break me. I have found love in the most unexpected of places, and in the end, every struggle led me here, to a family that truly loves and values me. Perhaps, after all, this was the path I was always meant to walk.